in a moment.
Chris Grayling.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm very grateful to catch your eye and to have the opportunity on slightly extended adjournment debate to make a brief contribution. I promise my honourable friend that it will be brief. But I have a dreadful situation in my constituency. A local chalk pit in Greenbelt, which has historically been a combination of overflow for the local car dealers and a transfer site for local skip dealers, which has, over the past 12 months, been transformed by one of the operators, a local firm, NJB, into a full recycling centre without planning consent, and they are now applying retrospectively for that planning consent. And I've opposed it, and I hope it will be turned down. But the experience of the past 12 months has highlighted a particular issue to me, which I hope the Minister will give some thought to, and give some thought into discussions with his colleagues at DEFRA. Because not only is this an unlawful use of the site, not only is the operator applying for retrospective consent, and I absolutely agree with my honourable friend that this simply should not be permitted. You should not be able to set up a commercial operation without permission and get away with it. But it's also the case that other agencies involved do not have the powers to deal with a situation which is a contravention of planning consent. Now, a facility like this is regulated by the Environment Agency, and I have to say the performance of the Environment Agency over the past 12 months has been lamentable. This is a site that's causing massive noise nuisance to local residents. It's a few yards away from houses that now are subjected to substantial noise all day long. We've had massive dust problems. There have been huge traffic problems with the dramatic expansion of the use of the site. It's a shocking example, in my view, of something that simply should not be able to happen. But the Environment Agency, not only has its performance by its team been lamentable, they have not used the powers that they have had to try and restrain things. They have not followed, frankly, their own assessments of the scale of the problem. They carried out an independent assessment, found that the operator was in breach, and then failed to act on that breach. But what they have said all along is they can't act to close down or withdraw a permit from an operator that is operating a site unlawfully, even though the operator has changed the nature of the work that they're doing and is now operating in a way that in planning terms is unlawful. And so I do think what we need is a joined-up approach to regulation. We should not have a situation where the planning authority is receiving a retrospective application for an unlawful use of the site, but the regulations that apply to the use of the site under the auspices of the Environment Agency don't permit the Environment Agency to say, stop. So my message to the Minister, and I'm happy to talk to him in more detail about this as he prepares the planning bill, we shouldn't have a situation where two agencies with different enforcement powers have different abilities to intervene when it's a case of an unlawful use and a retrospective planning application going in. I'd like the whole thing to be able to be stopped and all of the agencies involved to be able to act in unison to say, you ain't got permission to use this site in the way that it's been used for, it's against planning law, you don't have consent, you're applying retrospectively, you should not be doing what you're doing now. Everyone should have the power to step in and say, you must stop. And so I'm very happy to share more detail with my honourable friend. I've been talking to DEFRA ministers as well. But what I want is a joined-up approach so that all the agencies have the same power to intervene when a site's being used unlawfully, when a retrospective application is being put in place. And of course, actually, I agree with my honourable friend that a retrospective application simply shouldn't be allowed anyway. But at the moment, we have a disjointed situation between the different agencies, and I'd encourage the Minister to work with me to try and address that in legislation as we go forward.
Minister Chris Pincher.